Yeah, thanks, ma'am, Daksha ma'am, Sharmila ma'am,
Hi.
and everyone present here.
Hello, this is Advocate Ramchandra Madane from Rotary Club of Kalyan, District 3142, India.
Welcome.
I am basically practicing in intellectual property rights since 32 years.
Good to know.
Thank you.
Param, hi Param.
Param, you managed to get
Naina,
हेलो मैम
कैसे हो?
मैं ठीक हूँ हाउ आर यू
Fine.
Looking out for
we are
KR.
live on Facebook.
What is he, Ned?
Should be joining. Dr. Meenakshi is joining. We need to see if whether K.R. Rabindran sir has joined or not.
Don't think so. I can't see him.
No, I haven't seen him either.
No, Ravi never gets late. He always comes on time.
Yeah, maybe I should
Ravi,
just call.
Ravi, are you somewhere? Is Nayan from Madurai?
Hello, ladies.
Oh, he's here. He's here. I can see him.
I can't. Have you spotted him? Oh, yes.
Spot whom?
Welcome.
Come.
You are in a spot.
You are the man.
Hi,
You are the
Ravi.
man.
I think
I'm 1:06. I was struggling to get in for the last 2 minutes.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Ravi, I am bringing you Meenakshi's blessings.
Where are you speaking? I can't see you.
Meenakshi's blessings, Nayan. N-A-N. Bald
Ned,
head.
where are you?
Bald head with the glasses.
You, man, I'm trying to.
Nayan.
Yes, I can't see you because I can see only the bald head. Half your face is covered. Lift your cape up, right? How are you doing?
Fine.
you can see him now.
Yes, I can. You're well? Very good.
Daksha, we have 1 minute to go for you to start.
Okay.
We are already live online and I'm also recording, so it will be posted on YouTube later on.
Do you want to mute all, Vidya?
Yeah, I'll take care of that.
How is everything in Sri Lanka?
Well, shall I say, could have been much better. If you have a couple of good politicians, send them across.
We are expert here, sir.
Rotarians, I'm going to mute all of you. Kindly unmute when you have to speak. And we begin the meeting now.
A very good evening to all. Let us begin this evening's program with a four-way test. Of the things we speak and do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Will it build goodwill and friendship? Will it be beneficial to all? Thank you. I have great pleasure in welcoming past RI president and trustee chair of TRF, K.R. Ravindran, to be here with us to talk on the topic, Thinking Big. A phenomenal writer and a voracious speaker, Ravi, as he is popularly known, is our chief guest for the evening. On behalf of Rotary Action Group, Menstrual Health and Hygiene, I, Rotarian Daksha, a Rotary Action Group officer, a GSC alumni, and the current District Director of International Service of RID 3232, welcome you, Rotarian Ravi. This topic it comes off as quintessential in these challenging times. Out of many challenges faced in the 21st century, women hygiene is still one of them. Menstruation is not a problem, poor menstrual hygiene is. A woman must wait for her ovaries to die before she can get her rightful personality back. Menstrual blood is the only source of blood that is not automatically induced. Yet, in modern society, this is the most hidden blood, the one so rarely spoken of and almost never seen. But what better times can we be passing through than this, when global leaders in Rotary are going beyond gender and are coming out to break the silence? We have one such leader today. And before we move on for the official introduction of our chief guest for the evening, Rotarian Ravi, I request Dr. Meenakshi to present an overview of menstrual health and hygiene. Over to Dr. Meenakshi.
Dr. Meenakshi.
Good evening, sir. I met you last year at the wedding in Bangalore. And at that point, you said, I must talk about impact assessment. And this is what I'm going to do today, because that is how you gave me directions. Oh, God. 1 second. Have you allowed me to share it?
Dr. Meenakshi, I've shared it on the screen here.
Oh, you have. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you move to the next slide, please?
I think you better share because my screen has gone stuck now.
Okay.
– Sharmila, you have to stop sharing for her too.
Yeah, I think my screen has frozen for some reason. I can't do anything.
Your screen is and so is mine.
Okay, I think I've managed to. Yeah, Dr. Meenakshi, please go ahead. You can share the screen.
Okay. So 1.9 billion menstruating women in the world, and only 50% of them use disposables, and we have enormous garbage. We then have this problem of period poverty when women do not have money to buy the said considered hygienic single-use disposable products, which has been drilled into our heads over the last so many years. So the impact on the health is enormous, and we have never looked at what is in our disposable sanitary napkins over the last 50 years. But coming now, we understand that we have a whole lot of problems that are being created by the 95% plastic containing sanitary single-use disposable sanitary napkins. From rashes to infection to skin irritation to hypothyroidism, infertility, and maybe implicated cervical cancer. We have all these problems that have come upon us in the last so many years.
Dr. Meenakshi, we are not able to see your screen.
Presentation.
Your presentation. Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. He's here.
Host needs to enable screen sharing.
I have, yep. Can you try now?
Yep, now it's working. Don't worry.
Yeah, we can see now. Go ahead, please.
Yep. Sure.
Yeah, thanks. So from the impact on the economics is fabulous. Each one of us have spent on an average 8 rupees. I'm talking about the Indian economics. I'm not talking about the world economics. World economics is much higher than what is the Indian economics. On an average, we would spend about 80 rupees a month on our periods. And in 10 years, we would spend 10,000. On the environment impact, these are all the problems that we face. It's all going to the landfill. It creates toxic dioxins in the air when burnt, which is the most common way of dealing with it in the landfill. It blocks all the drains, and we have all these people who work with the garbage in having many health problems. Sustainable menstruation are two things. One is new and one is old. One is the cloth pad that has come out in a new avatar. And the menstrual cup, though it is 80 years old, has come into prominence over the last 10, 15 years. Wonderful options. Menarche to marriage is the cloth pad, and marriage to menopause is the menstrual cup. So for 30 years, if we use menstrual cups, we use 3 menstrual cups, and that covers our periods completely. This is the period care products which are sustainable, and the impact assessment of the sustainable menstruation is what I'm going to talk about. So when you look at the costs, an average disposable sanitary napkin costs 8. The cloth pad set costs about 300 to 400 rupees, and the menstrual cup costs around $1,000. Single-use disposable sanitary napkins cost 10,000 in 10 years, while the cloth pads would cost 1/3 the amount, and the menstrual cup will cost 1/10 the amount. So the project that we are asking all Rotary clubs across the world to set up, and I'm talking about this in the Indian context, that's the Green Dot project, which addresses multiple aims. Rotary clubs will help to set up these local units. It will create employment for local women as producers. They will make reusable sanitary products and take it across as crusaders into the community, because it requires a change in the mindset. And idea is to create a self-sustaining business model which will go forward in the years to come without Rotary intervention. So our proposal is each Rotary club to set up and empower women to stitch these cloth pads and make available to the school children. They will be crusaders and they will be producers. This will then give employment. And so impact per unit per annum is 30 women will get direct employment. 18,000 women will be the beneficiaries of this per year. And we will then have 2.16 lakh. Am I getting the numbers right? No, 2.16 million disposable pads which will be saved from going to the landfill. The impact across India, if we are assuming that 200 clubs will take up 2 such units each, so 400 units, we will be able to employ 12,000 women, and then 7.2 million women will be beneficiaries, and we will save 864 million pads. These numbers are too boggling for me. I've just sat and done the mathematics. So total for 400 units is direct employment for the 12,000 women with beneficiaries we've already told you about. And when we look at what is happening, this is the 3 things that will happen: water and sanitation. There'll be promotion of sanitary napkins, reusable, so it will save the contamination of water. It will work on the environment, sanitary napkin promotion and distribution with partnership with the production units, and it will create community economic development. So this is what we are looking at on a big scale And this is only India that I'm talking about. We've been talking to Africa, we've been talking to South American countries, we've been talking to South Asian countries, and everybody is very excited to take up this project. And with your blessings, we should be able to do that. Thank you, sir.
Daksha?
Yeah, for the official introduction, we have Pat.
Thank you, Daksha. Dear fellow Rotarians and friends, it is an honor and privilege for me to introduce our guest speaker, past Rotary International President, K.R. Ravindran, very fondly known to so many of us as just Ravi, who is also our current trustee chair of the Rotary Foundation. Ravi is a member of the Rotary Club of Colombo and a third-generation Rotarian. He joined Rotary in 1976 at the age of just 21. As Rotary International President in 2015 and 16, he introduced the Rotary Global Rewards Program and led a delegation of about 9,000 Rotarians to the Vatican for an audience with Pope Francis in St. Peter's Square. Ravi was the architect of the new vision plan and the strategic plan that led to the 6 areas of focus, which has now become 7. More recently, working with a group of friends and through a major global grant, he established a COVID state-of-the-art research laboratory for COVID vaccines, which could also be used for other viral infections. Ravi was the first president of the Sri Lanka Anti-Narcotics Association, which today is the leading agency fighting drug addiction in Sri Lanka. He headed a national committee consisting of Rotary, his country's health ministry, and UNICEF for the eradication of polio, and worked closely with UNICEF to negotiate a ceasefire in the ongoing civil war with the northern militants to facilitate national immunization days. Sri Lanka was the first country in South Asia to become polio-free. He also headed a Rotary project to build 25 modern schools across the country to replace those destroyed by the 2004 tsunami at a cost of US $12 million. Ravi is the CEO and founder of PrintCare, a public listed company engaged in the print and packaging industry with worldwide clientele. As a corporate leader in tea packaging, he has made all his employees and children as shareholders of his country, building the loyalty factor and looking after their well-being. Ravi is a recipient of the Rotary Foundation Citation for Meritorious Service, Distinguished Service Award, and Service Award for a Polio-Free World. His country conferred on him the title of Jewel of Sri Lanka and released a postage in his honor. Ravi is married to Vanathi, an economics graduate who leads many social and women organizations in Sri Lanka. They are blessed with a son, daughter, and a grandson whom he dotes upon. My fellow Rotarians and friends, today Ravi will speak to us on the topic Thinking Big, Projects of Scale. May I request you now to please put your hands together and extend a very warm welcome to our Foundation Chair, Ravi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Am I audible? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are audible, sir.
Thank you so much for that introduction. You know, I hate introductions, but I was glad no one asked me to send an introduction, and my secretary would have sent you one para. But I'm impressed at the details you managed to extract. I'm not sure from whom. Thank you so much. Most obliged. I must tell you that when Vidya asked me to speak to your group, I agreed with some trepidations. Although I'm aware that Rotary was very involved in supporting your cause, it was not an area where I personally had too much knowledge, nor was I overly familiar with the nature of the work that you do. So the first thing I did in the last 10 days, or since you invited me, was to correct that situation. And I decided to watch the Bollywood movie with Akshay Kumar called Padman. And then I ordered from Kindle Jennifer Weiss Wolf's new book, Periods Gone Public, Taking a Stand for Menstrual Equity. So you see, I'm better informed now. and I understood most of what you spoke just now. And in a way, I feel sorry that you spoke to me when I'm just leaving office in a month's time, because how I wish it was 6 months down the road when I could have helped you much more. But I appreciated the impact measuring way that you're doing this, and I think you will do well. And you know what? What I liked most was the environmental aspect. And as you know, we're just starting our 7th area of focus, which is the environment. But I can leave you with these words. Please speak to Shekhar Mehta. This is one of his focus areas, girls educations, and this falls right into his lap. I would recommend that you make an appointment with him and tell him now, walk your talk and just have a chat with him. I realized that we do have a problem when I was reading and understanding the subject, which one may term commonplace, but presenting extraordinary challenges to at least 500 million people. And we take it so much for granted, most of them living in lower income countries. I mean, they lack adequate facilities for managing menstruation. And even today, as I understand, they are faced with such ridiculous sentiments. Don't cook food because you will pollute it.
If she calls me, you let me know. Huh? I'm not listening. I am on the other one.
We are listening to you. If you will mute your mic, please. Don't touch idols because you will defile them. Am I audible now?
Yes, you are, sir.
Don't handle pickles because they will go rotten with your touch, and so on. I mean, even today in Africa, there are tribes who are forced to live in a cowshed through their periods. But beyond superstition and discrimination, many women face the straightforward lack of clean, safe laboratory facilities. And I'm glad that it's one of the things that my own company specializes in as part of our CSR, and that is focus on building toilets in girls' schools in the region where we have our factories. But believe me, I'm very appreciative of the work that you do, even more having listened to you this evening. But then that is not why you called me here. You called me here to tell you about something. You didn't call me here to tell you about something you know better than me. You called me here to speak about Rotary's new program called Projects of Scale. This morning, I was talking to a friend of mine in the US, and a very close friend of mine, and he said, I want to check into this program. And I told him, don't do this, don't waste your time. And I'm not sure whether it's here, but nonetheless, before when I speak about projects of scale, or before I do that, I need to touch on the elephant in the room. Rotarians around the world are perhaps facing the most challenging times this generation has ever faced with the current pandemic, which is sweeping the world. I thought we understood the crisis better now than we did a year ago. The failures of detection, preparation, cooperation, or the lack of it, the economic and social toll. But I was wrong. The horrifying second wave, which has traumatized India, is a catastrophe, not only for India, but for the whole world. An immediate consequence was a disruption to vaccine supplies. India, I think, had hoped to be the world's pharmacy. But with the case numbers simply exploding, the government of India understandably had no choice but to restrict exports of vaccines. Consequently, consignments to the rest of the world, including to COVAX, were in default. From early February, COVAX has delivered 54 million doses, but by June will be 190 million doses in default, short. So while many countries, leave alone the wealthier ones, are maybe seeing the back of the pandemic, there are others who are simply gasping for oxygen. These differences were never meant to be so black and white. And tragically, such inequity is not going to do us any good, because the longer we delay, the more the virus will mutate. and more transmissible it will become. I hope the powers that be understand that vaccines must be made available to poorer countries because no one is safe unless everyone is safe. At this time, countries with 14% of the world's population have secured 53% of the best vaccines now being produced. Almost all of the Pfizer vaccines will go only to rich countries. The Moderna vaccine will go to rich countries exclusively. It is not even being offered to the poor countries. It is likely that 9 out of 10 people in the world will not have vaccines available. No more than 2% of the entire African continent is currently vaccinated. So you can see what a mess we are in. I think India has the ability, the talent, and the external support to come out of this strong. I just hope the others can too, including my own country. I mean, people like me have got the first shot, we don't have vaccine to do the second shot. But be that as it may, as I review the last 9 months of my own performance as foundation chair, the performance of the trustees and of the Rotarians, I'm surprised from a foundation point of view that we have achieved much in spite of the many challenges. One of those successes have been the launch of the Programs of Scale grant model, which you have specifically asked me to speak about. Now, the background to this is that when we go and talk to foundations, corporates, etc., to raise money for joint projects, apart from polio, we really don't have a product to sell. And they ask us, so what is it that you're doing? And we say, well, we are doing water projects in Africa, literacy projects in India, maybe environmental projects in Scandinavia, perhaps some educational scholarships in USA. And then we do a mixture of all this in 200 other countries. You know, they are just not interested. They want a program like Polio Plus, where they can join, have a partnership, they can put in money, they get some reputation for it, and they can achieve much. So we focused on a new grant model that can enhance the scope, the impact, and the sustainability of not only that project, but other Rotary Service projects, and in the process, benefit a larger number of people in need across a more significant geographic area. We focused on a model that will attract funding and/or resources from like-minded partners. We focused on a model which has the ability to be scaled up to large proportions, like what we did with polio. The result of our programs of scale will, or rather, the result would be our programs of scale, which will award $2 million annually to one high-impact, evidence-based project implemented with other experienced partners who, what I call, Rotary doesn't say that, who have skin in the game in one of the areas of focus. What do I mean skin in the game? I mean they also put in money with us, not simply take our money and then do it their way. I personally thought it was a great program, and I personally pushed it. But imagine my surprise when I had opposition from several who believed that we were taking away our World Fund resources, which could have funded many, many more projects for the sake of one. I mean, we do hundreds of projects. We fund a couple of $100 billion dollars worth of projects. But so this was a school which said, look, you're taking $2 million and do it on one project when you could fund several for 100, 200, 350, 60, $1,000. My first reaction was, oh my God, this is history repeating itself. We had the same opposition that our 3H program faced when it was launched. Let me explain. In the 1970s, board policy, Rotary board policy, stressed the autonomy of the individual Rotary club, discouraging any venture into what was termed corporate activity. That means the official policy seemed to be that there was ample opportunity for every Rotary club to direct its energies in service to its own local surroundings and community. but to do so in isolation within the limits of its own resources. Do what you can within the community you have. Don't mess around outside. So when the then Rotary International Board under Australian President Clem Renouf amended existing policy, recognizing the autonomy of individual Rotary clubs, but encouraging them to engage in programs beyond their community if they so wished, there was strong opposition. Leading the charge in opposition were some of Rotary's most senior and respected people. 4 past Rotary International presidents, several former directors, a very powerful former general secretary, people who commanded respect and whose opinions were valued. So even though Rotary's Parliament, the Council on Legislation, endorsed the new law, I mean, we had to go to the council in order to change our constitution, these people challenged the decision on the floor of the convention as they're entitled to do. The matter was debated, and despite the opposition, perhaps even because of it, members worldwide who were there, their voting delegates, cared enough to support the change and to defend an idea whose time they felt had come. This program was called 3H, meaning hunger, health, humanity.
Okay.
It turned out to be far-sighted. Thanks to the first 3H program, which was to immunize 6.3 million children in the Philippines against polio, that same program grew to the much more ambitious target today that we have to rid the world itself of polio. In other words, if not for the 3H program and the expansion we did, or the change in our laws, you won't have the polio program today. And as a result, I can tell you that today we have nearly 19 million children around the world who would otherwise have been crippled because we did not go through with that program. Today, these children are all walking because of what we did with polio. We have not finished the job yet. Although I must tell you, we are at this point the closest we have come to the finish, with only 4 cases of wild polio virus in the last 6 months, 2 from Pakistan, 2 from Afghanistan. More importantly, the environmental samples in the Afghanistan-Pakistan border areas is showing 0 presence of the virus. And that's something really to cheer about. We are really, really, really near the close. My personal belief is that the programs of scale project or program will do to us what 3H did to Rotary in the 1970s. So the first award is a project to eliminate malaria in Zambia. Our $2 million investment has been matched equally by the Gates Foundation with $2 million and by World Vision with $2 million, making it a total financial outlay of $6 million. This program will train 380 health facility staff members and add 2,500 community health workers to the national health system in Zambia, allowing for effective malaria diagnosis and treatment. This collaborative program, sponsored by a Rotary Club in Seattle, working with a Rotary Club in Zambia, with the Zambian government, is projected to bring down the incidence of malaria by 90% in time. Imagine the number of pregnant mothers and number of little children whose lives will now be spared. The good thing is we know malaria can be eradicated. My own country is an example. But we just need to draw attention to it. And if we do, I think we can succeed all over. I recall watching a presentation by Mr. Bill Gates in 2009 or 10. I think it was on TED Talk, on the toll malaria was taking on people. He actually started by telling the audience that sharks in the ocean were considered deadly because they kill about 10 or 12 humans every year. That's true, they're deadly. But sharks pale in comparison to this tiny mosquito, which claims 725,000 lives a year. About 5 minutes into his presentation, he says malaria, of course, is transmitted by mosquitoes. And I brought some here so you can experience it. And with that, he walked up to the front of the audience opened a glass jar and let the mosquitoes fly. And he said, why should only people in Africa die? Why doesn't it roll around the auditorium so that you also can experience it? I can tell you, he not only had the media buzzing, he not only had the support, he had the funds he was looking for this organization he was supporting. But more than that, he invoked the passion of the audience to contribute and be a part of the effort. My friends, that's true. Passion is so important. There lies in each of us a passion. It just needs to be awakened. All great achievers in Rotary or outside have this passion. And even in these difficult days, this is the type of visionaries we need to harness. I mean, I saw some people here in this audience today with passion. This is the passion we need to awaken. And I want to give you an example. Back home in my country, two of my very close friends, very dear friends, Abbas and Ajay, we were over a drink talking of the situation in our country of children with mental health issues. 20% of Sri Lankan children are affected by disabilities. 1 in 93 has been diagnosed as autistic. As in other developing countries, cerebral palsy affects 2 to 5% of children. Now, in a situation like this, we could only shrug our shoulders, criticize the government for not doing anything about it. And I can tell you, we are very good at criticizing the government, unlike yours. But our passion got the better of us. We could visualize a properly equipped center to treat children with such disabilities. So between us, the right people were spoken to, and they became partners to the project. The University of Colombo made available the land, 5 or 6 acres. Sri Lanka Army built the premises in 13 months. And there were 2 major cash infusions, about $1 million each, from the companies of my 2 friends, Abbas and Ajay. Rotary made available equipment with a Rotary Foundation grant of about $400,000. But building and equipping was easy, right? Sustainability was the key in the long term. So we negotiated a deal with the Faculty of Medicine of our university that they would absorb all the operational and maintenance costs. They would provide trained professionals in the field of disability studies and take care of initial screening interventions. What do they get in turn? They got a $5 million, 42,000 square feet center of world-class complex to operate from. I mean, I've been to such facilities in Hawaii, I've been in Istanbul and other places. This is far superior, absolute world-class. The center already has registered outdoor patients nationwide, numbering over 5,000, all of them provided with services free of charge. And we are just now in the process of building dormitories for the mothers to stay when their children are getting treated. It's a remarkable project. This is the type of project that the new programs of scale signifies, bringing in external partners to leverage our own resources. So notwithstanding the current situation, I ask you to be hopeful. Look for people like this. Continue to do what you do. Aim big. Have big dreams. Invoke your passion. Do what you're doing. Do it well. Don't forget that you and I will be measured on our ability to handle the current adversity and uncertainty. You and I do have a responsibility to provide the inspired leadership our members and our friends and our community is yearning for. You and I, as someone said, have a responsibility to serve as a lighthouse for this organization when the fog of life seems to leave you wandering around in circles, as it does many people. You and I have a responsibility to demonstrate in action our support to the philosophy of Rotary in a tangible manner. You and I have a responsibility to vindicate the figure that Johns Hopkins University put on the value of work done by Rotarians in terms of volunteer hours spent at $850 million per annum. Most of all, you and I have a responsibility to God and country, for it's His work that we do now. So when you plan big projects, put your faith in him, step out boldly, you will succeed. I can tell you firsthand. In fact, I am reminded constantly of a comparison made by a former head of the Salvation Army when he said that each of us lives in two worlds. One is the world of reality. The other is the world of spirituality. We are citizens of both worlds. Make no mistakes. One world is visible, other world is invisible. One world is fluctuating, the other world is constant. One world is transient, the other is imperishable. One is the world of revolutions, unrest, and anxiety. Other is the world of revelations, quietness, and stability. One is the world of the body, and the other is the world of the spirit. Both these worlds are real. Both these exist under the sovereignty of God. With His help, we live in both worlds. In one, we meet our challenges, and in the other, because of organizations like Rotary and the opportunities it gives us, we find our sanctity and our peace. Stay well, be safe. Thank you.
Wow. You know, we signed up for thinking big, and you really opened our thoughts that much bigger. I think we also got a free lesson in Vedanta and philosophy. Thank you, Rotarian Kiara. I think it was a truly awesome 20 minutes from you. We have some questions, and if you can spare us another 10 minutes to go, is that okay?
Well, as long as the questions are simple, I'll answer it.
Yeah, yes. Well, I think the first one you already answered. So you said that the ceiling value for such big projects is $2 million US, right? That was the first question.
$2 million from Rotary, but I expect these to link up with others, like this project was 6 billion. It could be more. I mean, if you look at our Polio Plus program, we put in a couple of $1 billion, but the total amount raised is in excess of $12 billion, which other countries, Gates, everyone else has done. So you're looking to put in some money, you're looking to put in your resources, and you're expecting others to come in with their own cash and their whatever support they can.
Okay, so that's great. So really, there is no limit to our thinking. That's what you're telling me. Dream
Absolutely.
big and work towards it. That's
Absolutely.
good. And you were talking about, you know, working with multiple partners in, you know, in such projects of scale. And, you know, it goes beyond Rotary when you're working with an NGO or whether you're working with different governments. I'm sure there must be challenges. Could you share with us some of these, you know, challenges and how we could prepare ourselves better to deal with these different partners when working on such projects?
You know, first of all, I want to give you an example. After the tsunami, we decided that we looked at the various options, and we said one was building houses, another was doing all the fisher boats that got lost. A third was, what was the third? Third was doing up this electrification and thing, which was all down. And the fourth was building schools. So one by one, we eliminated all the housing. The biggest problem was you were spending a lot of time and effort to give relief to a small community. And then you have situations where they sell the house, then someone comes and says, I own the land, and so on. So we decided to build schools. Now, we did an initial study and we took on 25 schools, new schools. We said we won't rebuild, we'll build new schools away from the ocean. And the budget was $12 million, roughly. At that time, we had less than 100,000 rupees in our pocket. But we put together a project. We went to different sources. And actually, both in business and in Rotary, my own attitude is money is the easiest thing to raise. What is more difficult is to find a project which can be translated to reality, where you convince people with your credibility, this is what I'm aiming to do, it can be done, these are the people who benefit. If you can do that, money simply flows, because there are many people who want to give money, they just don't know whom to give and the type of, and they don't trust the people they give to. So we raised this $12 million in exactly 10 months, and we finished 25 schools in 2 years. Right now, we're doing a project to eradicate cervical cancer in Sri Lanka. We hope we will be the first one by 2030 to achieve this. And we found that Cancer Society of the United States has joined us. One of the top cancer hospitals in the US has joined us. Leyland has come in and said, we'll give you 3 buses which are fully equipped with mammogram machines and so on. The Ministry of Health has moved in, and we are well on the way, and I think we will actually achieve it. So I'm saying money is the easiest thing to do. You need to find a project. You need to be able to translate it in a tangible manner, how it translates to the ground and the type of community that you're leading. For example, if you want to do your project for the whole of India, you need to convince people how you're going to reach the whole of India. You know, if you want to do it whole of Tamil Nadu, you've got to give us statistics and say, okay, these are so many villages or so many people involved. This is the number of people we are working. This is whom we can mobilize. This is the money that we need. You'll find the money, but you've got to convince them that you got your stuff on board. So most of the work is your own planning. I'm telling you, money is the easiest thing to find.
So you're also saying that, you know, not necessarily always that Rotary puts in the money also. We could be the enablers, we could be the catalyst.
Not at all. Right now, I sent out a letter with President Holger Knag appealing to the world to support India for these COVID issues that we're having. 3 days ago, I have our own ministry calling me and the governor and said, look, help us, we are getting into similar problems. Now, I can't even go back to Rotary. But we are saying we will now mobilize the Sri Lankan diaspora. I spoke to some friends in the morning. We'll get our school kids. We will go, we'll raise the money. We have a project ready. There will be many people who are willing to give the money. It doesn't even worry me. And I won't touch Rotary money.
That's really, truly reassuring.
Rotary will be the one, they trust Rotary. So they will send the money to us. We will do a website. We will give the accounts. We have credibility. We have transparency. They won't trust the government. They'll trust us. Prabhakaran of the LTT trusted us when we said we will create a ceasefire. He didn't trust the government. So we have credibility. People trust us.
That's really nice to know and reassuring. And while thinking big, do we have to start small? Do we need a proof of concept and then?
You know, well, different people have different things. My own view is that I run a business. My first priority always is my family, business, Rotary, in that order. I don't put Rotary, I'm not a full-time Rotarian. I have to look after my business. I have shareholders, I got my family, and I got my business. So I have some limited time. And I say that limited time I use is the same time I will spend whether I'm building a bus stand somewhere, whether I'm building a school somewhere, or whether I'm eradicating cervical cancer somewhere. So I would rather go for the big project than try to build a bus stand.
Great. I have my answer there. I think all of us, whoever wanted that question answered, you have it there. And I think funding also, you did answer that we don't have to worry about where the money comes from. But I'm talking from a giving perspective for Rotarians. How do we motivate Rotarians to give money to the foundation now that this, elimination of the match on cash contributions?
You know, I mean, if you are going to give money only because you're getting money back from the foundation, you're just doing a business deal. Yeah. Most of the direct, and it's only a lot of the direct gifts from our part of the world is like that. They give the money, they get their points, their recognition, and it goes to their own project. If you look at 60% of our funds come from the United States, and they don't spend it in the US, it's spent in the rest of the world. Now, if they felt like us, they wouldn't be giving any money. And, you know, if you look at this year, my target was to raise $410 million. This year, I found that with COVID and all that, I said, okay, we will downgrade it to 350. But you know what? We'll actually finish up with some luck if the last 2 months coming in on as we have predicted, we'll actually finish up ahead of 410 in spite of these changes that we have brought in. And these changes that we have brought in is not because we are running short of money. It is because our demand has increased so much. We are in a business now where our market has exponentially gone up. more than the capital that we are putting in. So if you're not getting a match, it's because you guys are not putting in enough money, our Rotarians. So if you look at the last 10 years, India has given, I don't know, $6 or $7 million, and they've got back in return $28 million. Now, who gave all that money? Some others, rest of the world gave. And I'm always reminded of, the quality of service that we do. I don't know whether you heard of Maimonides. He's a Greek theologian. He's a philosopher, physician. And he set down 8 degrees of charity. He said the first and lowest degree is to give, but with reluctance or regret. Now that's the gift of the hand, not of the heart. The second is to give cheerfully, but not proportionately to the distress of the sufferer. If you wanted 50 rupees, you gave 5 rupees. The third is to give cheerfully, proportionately, but not until solicited. The fourth is to give cheerfully, proportionately, and even unsolicited, but put it in that person's hand, thereby invoking him in the emotion of obligation. The fifth is to give to charity in such a way that the distressed may receive the bounty and know their benefactor without their being known to him. I mean, for instance, when you offer a scholarship in your, say, your father's name or someone's name to a school, you're not sure who gets it, but they know it is coming in the name of so and so. The sixth level of charity, higher, which is still higher, is to know the objects of our bounty but remain unknown to them. For instance, when you make an anonymous donation for a child's surgery, you know who is getting it. You know the child is being operated with your money. That child doesn't know where this money came from. The parents of the child don't know where the money came from. That's the sixth level of charity. Seven, and even more meritorious, is to bestow charity in a way where the benefactor may not know the relief persons, and the person who gets relief does not know who the benefactor is. That's what you do when you give the foundation, because you're not sure where the money goes. When the Americans give money, it may come to any part of the world, but they know it's going somewhere because the foundation uses the money properly. And lastly, the highest level, the most meritorious of all, is to anticipate the suffering and act to prevent it, as we are doing with polio. By what we have done for polio, we have saved 19 million children from being crippled, and that alone makes this whole thing worthwhile. So when you give money, don't look for a return from foundation, just give it. It comes, it's already coming to you. As I said, in the last few years, you give $7 million and you get back 28 million.
I think that was a great, anecdote you recalled, the Jewish scholar Maimonides, and wonderful way to communicate the importance of giving. Even in the Indian philosophy, we have that, when you give dhanam, you should never look at what you're going to get in return. The right hand should not know what the left hand is doing. And thank you for reinforcing that with this wonderful, 8 levels of charity message. The last question, I'd say 2 more questions I have. Given the different regional needs, how do you decide the priorities? Like today, for example, COVID seems to be, overshadowing all other issues. So how do you arrive at the priorities?
Well, clearly, we gave out $38 million for COVID, and giving out money to COVID is finished, but we still do global grants. So that depends on what you're asking for. We don't decide the priority. It comes from the various clubs around the world, and it's examined on the merit of each application in the order in which it comes in, and we give out the money. We don't decide what is the priority, because remember, the priority, let's say for me at the moment, is a cervical cancer project in Sri Lanka. For you, it's something else. For someone else, it could be a literacy project. So it varies, and it goes on the basis of the applications that comes in. We don't decide for you what you need. You decide on your priority for yourself. On the major grants, we give out $2 million each year for one grant, and that is very, very competitive. This year, I think we had over 20 or 30. We narrowed it down to 6. Then they had a committee which sat on it and then picked this one. The second one was one from India. I can't remember what, but it was one from India.
Thank you. Yeah, we have one last question, not necessarily to projects or scale, but the fact is that, we seem to be doing a lot, and you threw some very interesting numbers in terms of the time spent by Rotarians, for example, captured as numbers and value, which was not there for a long time. So the kind of work that Rotary does on ground is, gives us scope to also have nice hard data. Do you see that happening in the near future? Because it would be really interesting. Like UNICEF, I think we could create our own data and make it that much more powerful.
We do have data. I mean, you can, if you look at the areas of focus, we can tell you precisely how much has been spent. We can tell you what is the impact we've made. We can tell you how many people have been involved. In fact, when I do a sales talk with some organization, I actually tell them, look, we are asking you for some cash, but you know what is the value we bring in? And they say, what? I say, let's say, for example, we have 1.2 million Rotarians around the world. Let's say that just 300 of them are doing some community work each day. Let's value them at $30 per day, because you might have the ones in the United States getting a couple of hundred and us getting $10, $15 at $30. I said, that's what we bring to the table, $9 million a day. What do you give? You give you may give $1 million, I think it's a hell of a lot of money. But this is what we bring to the table. So you got to value our time. You can't hire people like us. You can't hire people like what I see on the screen.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for patiently answering every question of ours. I think we need to let you go because you have something else coming up at 7, Denise.
Yes, thank you. I happily take over. I'm Rotarian Denise from Spain, District 2203, and I'm also the founding member of the Rotary Action Group. I'm very pleased to meet you, and I have the honor to do the vote of thanks. You're an exceptionally gifted speaker, but I'm sure you know that. You took me from goosebumps to goosebumps today, combined with a great sense of humor. Thank you for this. I would like to emphasize that what you said at the very beginning, that you read yourself into the topic of menstrual health and hygiene. I find this an exceptional gesture from you, and I really thank you for this. It shows that indeed it's a very female topic, obviously, by nature, and we need men who have this wish to understand more. So you're a great example for all these, and we really appreciate that. Thank you very much for this. And another note that I took from the many that I took was when you said, or you encouraged us to be the lighthouse. I like this picture very much, because if we develop this idea a little bit further, we could say that we, with our light, enlighten more people and bring more light into this world, into the dark that we see. And for me, every time I'm with Rotarians, or especially when I'm at the Rotary International Convention, I feel this is the antithesis to what we are reading in the newspapers every day. It feels like a warm hug of 5 days full of love and friendship, and people sharing a great value, believing in mankind, and that we really can make this world a better place. So thank you for this beautiful picture of us being the lighthouses, and I encourage everybody to follow this. Thank you very much for your time, but more than this, even for your thoughts and for being with us, and for this great gift of this last house. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I take your leave now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi.
Thank you very much, sir.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Please convey my greetings to Vanati.
I will do that. Thank you. Take